And woo. Okay. Ugh. Oh, you ready?
Yes, let's do this.
All right, guys. All right, for you guys that are with us online, thank you for being here. This is the Nissan Nerd Podcast. Of course, the guy you see doing the dancing, we're doing some prep. That's Miles Hall. Myself, my name is Mike DeLashmutt. On this episode, we're going to talk about a record-breaking Nissan Le Mans race car that is going to auction this week. Also, we have a full lineup of motorsports events to report to you, including details of our action-packed weekend with TechSport Racing, with Nissan, and with NISMO engineers during the GT4 America race weekend at the Circuit of Americas. Let's go
A
ahead and
whole
get
lot of
into it,
coverage.
guys.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be tons. Guys, this is the Nissan Nerd Podcast. We are a grassroots show. We run the show out of our homes. It's
Uh-oh.
sort of like Wayne's World, except that we're both Garth. That's the
Oh,
way I think of it. So
yeah.
let's get into
Cool.
it.
Yet another episode of the Nice of NNP. What episode? What number are we on, man?
We're on number 68. By
That's
the
not
way.
too bad.
It's not too
It's
bad.
all right.
This sounds funny. This is just, again, the nerd part of me. It's number 68. And what's today's date? It's June 8th, which is the 6th month,
What a
8th day,
quickie.
6-8. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, it's the weird things that you notice, but I noticed it. I caught it. So here we are.
All right. Well, it's been
Yeah.
a minute since we've caught up.
Yes.
We've been kind of away and doing our whole different things. You actually had some great coverage, we're going to talk about here recently. But I know you've been kind of doing some other stuff. What have you been up to as of late? Since I haven't talked to you in God, almost a week and a half, probably.
It's been a little bit more than that. I'll be honest, man. Aside from the race and all that, which we'll get into, honestly, man, I wanted to share. I'm obviously trying to get working on this 300ZX in
All right, cool.
preparation
I was going to
for
ask if
our.
you've been in the garage at all. So good. All right.
Yes, we're. It's definitely crunch time. I'm gonna tell you that much. I should
All
have been
right.
a little further along. However, it is still very much within the realm of possibility having this car in LA in late July. So we're working on it. And actually, what I wanted to share is that it's just coincidence. I had a memory on social media
Uh-oh.
just today, and it involved both of us, and then especially this car that we're trying to get out to LA. So
What did I do? All right.
this
Oh,
was
I remember
4.
this memory. All
You remember
right.
this?
I
4 years ago, we made a huge order to Z1 at the time. We're talking complete. The engine was out of the car this time 4 years ago. Clutch kits, all the hardware, all the upgrades, one-piece drive shaft, a bunch of
remember.
pieces. Look at that pretty engine, man. That was. You
I
remember that?
remember going through that. Yep.
uh, I don't know. I saw it. And I just thought, man, it being the day that it is, it's podcast day for us. I was like, man, I got to share this, man.
It proves that we get in the garage and we have a lot of scars on our knuckles. Since we work on 300s and Datsuns all the time, we're gonna carve it up. So
Yeah. This was actually
yeah.
before. Oh, look at there. There's Miles. You can never put on a straight face too. When every
Uh-uh.
picture,
Oh,
that's like a rule of yours. You can never just have a regular smile.
my bad.
It's all good, man. But this was
So
actually before we had the podcast. So this was just us hanging out. Just
a
we're
normal
building.
Saturday night for us back before we had responsibilities of a podcast and all the other garbage we have to do. But yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. But I remember this night though. Great times, man.
yeah.
Of course, the transmission cleaning. We always glorify.
The sketchiness of we did, man, that engine bay came out great. It'd be better if you'd let me paint it, but we'll go from there.
Well,
So
that's the thing, because right now we're looking into doing that now. So
yeah.
we'll see how it goes. So
Eventually I'll get to it. So we'll tear that whole thing apart and I'll go from there.
oh yeah,
So
I
um
was
yeah.
yeah. Now this was that's really been my focus here the last couple weeks, was just getting this car on the road again. All the preparation to do that. However, you went on a little trip, man, and
Yeah, I was in Cancun for a hot minute.
oh, la di
Just
da.
yeah, I'm not name dropping Cancun or anything, but no, I kind of had to go for a family thing. Surprisingly enough, so
Oh,
I
really?
went into Cancun and I spent a little about a week there roughly. But you'll be proud of me. The whole time I was looking for Nissan Subarus to take photos of. I took a few. And I put them on my page. And then I was trying to find, believe it or not, I'm trying to find Datsun parts in Mexico the entire time I was there, but I was trying to break away at like 1 hour increments and just get off campus, if you will, and trying to go up
Oh,
parts, but I couldn't find anything. So I think it's all.
really?
I think I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to sneak into Mexico one of these days, and smuggle some Datsun car
You know how
parts.
hard that's gonna be? No,
And I think it's
no.
all border town, and maybe we'll make that like a thing when we go. We'll just sneak into Mexico
Yeah,
to buy car parts and come back. So
we have
we'll
a
talk about it later.
pockets full of nuts and bolts and sensors, kind of like yeah.
I'm telling, but all the aftermarket stuff is kind of still there in Mexico, believe it or not, a little bit of it. So
W-
what's left
We're gonna
anyway?
be
But
at the gate. You know, what are you smuggling, boy? Drugs? Nope. Just
Datsun
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 parts. Yeah.
620 hood, the glass. So that's how much fanatical we are. So, but yeah, that was just me recently. So, but yeah, that's
Oh,
it. Let's talk about. Do we got anybody with us tonight? See
oh,
here.
we've got a
Anybody
few.
chimed in? All right. If you're in the chat and you're with us tonight, go ahead and let us know you're there. We'll acknowledge you. It looks like we've got Myers Motorsports in for us first, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
saying looking forward to this episode. Haley Myers was actually part of the gang that we had at Circuit of the Americas. Very much involved with the team and had a lot of action. Actually, we've got a few photo credits we need to give to her as well for this
Nice.
podcast. Um, we also have Justin JLE saying, "Evening, boys. You're out there, I believe, on the East Coast, and then on the complete opposite coast, West Coast, we got Edgar Furman out in California
We've got
with
both
us.
sides of it. Good
Hey, dude,
job.
we're expanding. This is so cool, man. This is what it's all about, though.
We
This
are
was all our
expanding.
whole intent, which was just to just expand and just have a bunch of conversations across the country, across the world, man.
Well, we should get the Australian guys chiming in tonight. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know.
That
We'll
would be
see
fun
how it
too.
goes. George M, what's up?
What's up,
So
George?
we'll continue to acknowledge the crowd as we build up for the night. Um, um, Again, I'll go ahead and say it, Mike. But thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to tell us, please post comments in the section below. We see you, and we'll share some of your comments throughout the show.
All
And
right.
let's just go ahead and go into the compi, if you will, Mike. So we'll go ahead and give a shout out for those that have never been
Cool.
with us. We do a compi for, I guess, the easiest way to say it, for the living and the non-living. Overall.
The
So
toast.
we
That.
always do something we've always done. We start the show with that officially, and we end the show with a compi. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead and salute to those in the Nissan family whom we wish good health, and to those that we may have lost. May we be reminded of them often.
All right, guys. If you join us, kanpai. Woo.
Kampai. All right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about here in this episode of the Nissan Nerd Podcast. Primarily, we always start off the episode, of course, with news. And Mike, you've got a lot to kind of talk about in this. But for those that don't know, again, Nissan News is where we each scour the internet and share an article we like regarding Nissan, Datsun, or Infinity. Articles are usually sourced through the Nissan official newsroom and from media outlets at large. So take that with a grain of salt. Be kind. But you've got the first one up, Mike. And let's talk about it. What do you got?
Let's go for it, man. The article that I found here in the last week or two, um, I gotta say, it's not only a feature on a car, but the story behind the car, and happened over 30 years ago. Which every time I hear this story on some sort of article, I always have to share it because I like it so much. So Coincidentally, just another one, a new story has just popped up, and I'll go ahead and share my screen on this. And what we have here is a record-breaking Nissan R90 CK is going to auction. For those who see it in the picture here, this is the 1990 Nissan, again, R90 CK. This was the car that was qualifying and raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, again, over 30 years ago. What makes it special is its story. What specifically during qualifying before the actual 24-hour race. You'll see it through multiple outlets, and of course, we'll include a few with our show notes. But the summary of it is during qualifying, this particular car had its turbo wastegate become stuck or jammed.
We've talked about this before, and
Oh man, I love it.
it's a great story. Sorry, my
Yeah.
apologies.
And what resulted was, of course, the engine over boosting and the increased power output of the car for that, 5 minutes, 3.5 to 5 minute window that it took to go around the track or until the error was caught. Power typically from this car was about 800 horsepower. Because of the overboosting, though, you got up to about 1,100 horsepower out of this car. Um, this resulted in a recorded top speed at the end of the Musalon Strait of 238 miles an hour. And you've got a chicane right there too. I mean, you're going to these huge, uh, just this obviously the mall track or the streets that are so historic and so legendary. This car just handled it amazingly, though. Um, anyway, the crazy part is that the engine did not destroy itself. You would think with overboosting, of course, a very very dangerous condition. The car could have, you know, things could have been catastrophic, as things work out, but it didn't. So this is a very reliable chassis, reliable engine, I should say. But the end result, though, is that uh, this particular car secured pole position for the endurance race, and its qualifying time was 6 seconds ahead of all of the competition. They may not sound like a lot, but for those who know racing, that is a huge, huge lead. Many of its top competitors at the time were Aston Martins and a few others. And I mean, to be a full 6 seconds or more ahead was a huge, huge advantage, I guess, that gave Nissan the pole position that year. Um, there's actually a really good YouTube channel called Ben Collins Drives. This was Ben Collins is the driver. I'll try to share the video here for just a second, but he actually did a feature on this car in the last 2 weeks. And first of all, the videography is beautiful. He talks about the summary of the car. He does a full on summary of the car as he's driving it. And he gives full feedback to you of what the car is behaving, how it's reacting. And again, kind of giving you a history lesson while you're at it. So it's a very, very awesome video. Anyway, the reason why this is all being shared is because this car is going to auction. It will be, let's see here. It's going to the Sotheby's auction. Bidding for this will begin tomorrow. So the auction starts tomorrow, and currently the car is still in Le Mans. It's being maintained by a particular motorsports company, and estimated sales are being predicted as being 1 to 1.5 million euros, which is about 1.6 million US. The reason why I thought to bring this up too is that in our last episode we mentioned about the R34 Skyline, the one that was styled by Paul Walker and used in the Fast and Furious franchise. Those articles that we covered were reported that particular Skyline was the world's most expensive Nissan. Now, if this auction goes as planned, this may be the new uh, most expensive Nissan. to
Well,
go.
I mean, Nissans in general are just kind of going for. I feel like the historic Nissans are starting to finally go for top dollar. I mean, so we're no strangers to kind of covering what crazy values are kind of going for. We covered that 240Z that kind of set the trend when it went through auction, and it was the
Hmm.
highest selling Datsun 240Z in the United States. Remember we did that, but
Yep,
then we also cover the obscure. Remember we talked about Tom Cruise's
that's
Planters
right.
Z, and we
Yes.
talked about that when that sold. So yeah, if you know about the obscure Z that's coming up, I mean, usually it's pretty public, but if you know about an obscure Z or a classical Datsun or Nissan or even an Infinity, that's within the racing heritage or super rare, let us know. We'll definitely talk about it here on the show. But we love that kind of stuff. We nerd out on that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's I mean, obviously for obvious reasons. But yeah,
Yeah.
so this goes auction tomorrow. Auction is how long?
I actually did not specify
Few days,
because
no
this is
reserve.
no. Well, the crazy part is that because this is such a high profile auction, the conditions of those who are eligible to even place a bid are very strict.
Eh,
Typically, it involves contacting. It isn't like an online eBay bid. This is something that has to be
it's all
vetted.
crypto purchase or what? How
Crypto
weird
bros are coming in with this
dark
thing.
web purchase? I mean, what's going on here? So, but I
Yeah,
will say that's super cool. Yeah, I guess I'm not. I've heard the name Sotheby's. I know they deal with some pretty high end auctions. I've seen their name once or twice through other
yeah,
brands. I'll leave it at that. And
yeah.
so that's cool.
But but
Good find.
thank you,
So
man. The last thing I will say though is that for those who are trying to sell your car, advertising that you've over boosted the engine typically will not result in a higher sales price. I'm just going to tell you that much.
all right.
I think
That's not
this
a
is
selling point. Got it.
yeah. That's not, for us common folk. That is no. That is not it.
So you
So,
overboosted the engine, and you want me to
mm,
pay how much
and you
for
want
it?
more money? More money? Yeah.
But I will say it's an opportunity to pick up something extremely rare. So yeah, if you've got the means, I'm pretty sure it's so choice, as Ferris
So
Bueller
choice.
would put it. So good. Now I wanted to take my piece and kind of talk about this before. Now we've covered this quite a few times in the past. This is something that's ongoing and continuing to ongoing. Um, expedition. But that's what we're here to kind of talk about. So Nissan has, I'll just put it like this: there is an ongoing Nissan expedition for those that don't know, and we've kind of talked about this in the past. But if you haven't um, stumbled onto this yet or even know about it, you need to get woke on it, if you will. So, we're of course talking about the Nissan Pole to Pole EV expedition with the new Nissan Araya. Now, this is actually something, God, we were trying to report on this before it even happened.
Yep.
And then when it launched, we're like, go, go. We're thinking, we were so excited. We're like, race, run. But the reality is, this is very much a true expedition, kind of taking its time, really focused on success. But for those that don't know, this is a husband and wife team, Chris and Julie Ramsey, who actually had preparing for this particular ordeal for more than 4 years. But again, they are no strangers to doing rallies and Nissans, believe it or not. They're hardcore Nissan fanatics, if you will, especially with the EVs. Their first expedition was actually with the Nissan Leaf, where they actually did a rally previously or prior to the Araya. Now, this particular expedition is a larger undertaking, to say the least. The journey is actually going from the north to the South Poles. That's 27,000 kilometers. And it's expected to take them roughly about 9 months, roughly. But I'm going to say, with all the publicity that's kind of slowly been moving with this particular adventure.
Hmm.
Who knows? Maybe they might have to hit a little bit of a car show in between it, or hit a media piece of it as they go along. But if they take
Yeah.
longer than 9 months, no fault on them. It's still a very cool story.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, these folks are in the U.S. still. We were super excited to see them kind of come across the border. Um, Last time I checked, and this was, I think, yesterday when we were both pre-prepping for the show, we found them in Detroit. I would assume that there's some kind of Detroit Motor Show. I wasn't checking the log where exactly they're at, but last time we checked, they were like bouncing around between Tennessee, which is Nissan's that's home stomping
Headquarters of
ground,
America. Yeah.
headquarters, and then between Detroit, and we're like, where are they going? All over the place. I think we took a picture of it last night. We were kind of laughing about it.
We were.
You
Yeah.
got, yeah, I throw that up there,
Sure.
and yeah. So we're like, okay, they went all the way through Canada, went all the way through all that part, and then cut across
Yeah. From
and
from the
then
west
hit up Tennessee.
northwest U.S. to
Yeah,
Tennessee, they seem to make their way to about South Carolina and then backtrack through Tennessee area again, and now they're out in Detroit uh, with this car. Man, that's a hell of a trip. I imagine yes, there is somewhat of a marketing. Obviously, it's very marketable. This is a great testament for Nissan, not only for their testing, because you're putting this particular vehicle through obviously intense environments, intense weather, terrain, and uh, showing that this vehicle can endure that type of range of again temperature and terrain. But also, it's also an EV. Like, it is a um, electric vehicle. It needs to be charged routinely. Where on the North Pole are you going to find a power station? You're not. So they've gone through numerous ways to be creative and to generate power, but also to show that it is possible. There are things that are possible. If there's a will, there's
correct.
a way.
Yeah, in your mind though, just to, and we've talked about this a little bit in the last episode and a few before. So we've been monitoring like how are they getting power? Are they plugging in? They actually have a solar, a big, oh my god,
A wind
a,
generator.
yeah, a wind generator that's actually that's protruding. And what's cool is if you follow their Facebook page and their updates and everything, they'll actually kind of give you a breakdown on the vehicle piece by piece, like, hey, this is what we've added to it. This is how we're managing. This is how we've modified this vehicle, especially like in the front, the skid plates, the tires, how they're holding up.
Hmm.
Especially when they were traveling from the Glacier North sections.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts. We were literally watching it, a lot, and it was a lot of good information. And again, for those interested in buying the Araya, I would probably keep a close eye on this. This is an opportunity to check out how this vehicle is going to be put through its paces, and that's what is so interesting about it. And plus, um, the couple's very awesome. They're lovely to kind of watch and watch them kind of go through all these magical places
Yeah.
and great photography work. So again, if you have an opportunity, definitely check it out. Again, you can follow their journey through pole to poleev.com. And then if you want to kind of follow them live, that image that we pulled up was pole to poleev.com /expedition hyphen live backslash, and you can actually find out where they are on the map with the most updated information that we have. But again, something very cool. If you get a chance to check that out, you definitely want to follow those guys. And this is going to be a long updated thing to definitely check out.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll we can get them in one of these days on the podcast. Maybe do something live while they're en route, or we'll figure it out. Maybe we can touch base. So
Sure. Sure, man. Yeah, great catching up with them, man. Again, this is such a long expedition for them. I like that we've doing our best to uh,
promote it and help
just
out.
keep
Yeah.
keep keep the momentum going because after with anything, no matter that's 9 months long, it's going to take. You have your morale, and you've got your highs and your lows, and let's help them keep their morale
If they
high
come through
by
Texas,
showing them support.
we gotta take care of them.
Oh,
They come through Texas,
we've got to
we
do
gotta
that.
hook them up. So
We should ask. Yeah, we should see if they are,
we
man.
should,
There's
we'll
probably
try.
yeah.
So
Okay. All right, guys. Moving on with Nissan news, we've got one more article to report, and this is actually just a PSA. This is regarding a recall of the 2023 Nissan Leaf. For any of you guys that are owners of the current model Leaf, I'll share my screen on this. This is from carscoops.com, and I gotta say, this is probably one of the most detailed articles I've heard about a recall, which was, again, it's kind of right up our alley. It's so detailed. It's that nerd aspect of it, though. But I'll give you the details here. There are approximately 750 plus Leaf EVs in the U.S. that are being recalled specifically about a brake tube that was damaged during the manufacturing process. What happens is that the particular damaged tube can rust prematurely and cause a potential brake leak, brake fluid leak in the car. This defect was discovered in the factory. From there, it was escalated, and a inspection was launched. Out of 1,000 samples of units, there was 25 pieces that were identified as having suffered damage. Root cause is saying that there was a temporary, a short-term tooling correction that was made, and during that tooling, there was it was generating damage. So they had since did some quality control, fixed that, actually identify which cars in the factory that were still in the factory, had them fixed. And then they're encouraging everybody that is a Leaf owner, recent Leaf owner, that they will be receiving a notice in the mail to go to their local dealership and have it repaired if it's needed. What's interesting about this is that the Leaf obviously is an EV, and one of the features of the Leaf is that it has regenerative braking, and regenerative braking uh, regenerative braking essentially is where the motors that power the wheels as you slow down are also recovering that energy. So the motors are actually sort of being like a brake themselves, and that makes it tricky. So when
I
you
was
try to
gonna say
find,
that seems like it would be something that would, like, I don't know, dare I say, like, conceal or hide, like you're like, oh, my brakes are just fine. It's like, whoa, 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 slow your roll. I
yeah,
was like, you may be working on brake system number two, and not the primary system, which is the squishies. You definitely want to make sure that those are moving, those are operating
yes.
at optimum levels. So yeah, so again, nothing's gonna hurt if you get something in the mail. Check it out.
Mhm.
Even just check your VIN number at the local dealer, and they'll run you for all the recalls if there are any recalls for your vehicle whatsoever. So if you do normal
They do.
servicing through the dealer, like you should if you have a newer vehicle,
Yeah.
definitely want to check into that. So, but cool.
They were saying that yeah, you might see a light on the dash. Obviously, go to the dealer. There have not been any accidents identified because of this defect. They're
Nice.
not aware of any warranty claims. This is very much a proactive,
A proactive approach. That's
very
awesome.
proactive.
Yeah.
There was
Well,
no accidents to
that's
report.
very Nissan. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I
Very.
hope the guy that identified this thing on the factory floor gets a nice little bonus, man. I'll be honest with you, man.
Get
It's
some
it's
cake.
very much, I think, very
Little
much worth it.
Chili's gift card for him in the in the Christmas stocking this year. So
Chili's gift
kudos.
card.
You can pick out any hat you want in the
Gift
Nissan,
shop.
the gift shop. I will say, by the way, the guys. Let's talk about the manufacturing line. You and I have been to the manufacturing plant
Mhm.
in Tennessee, and I will say, and I'm sure those guys go by their gift shop that's there, and they're like, whatever, t-shirts. And when we went through there, it was like Christmas. I swear to God, I must have bought like 12 shirts. I wanted to buy a pair of coveralls. I bought a
Yes.
Nissan employee jacket. Like I was literally just gonna buy the fixtures. I was like, can I have that fixture right there? Like, what are we doing with that? Like,
You,
what's up?
you,
Just
and you're talking the factory, so that must have been during ZCon. I know every so
yeah,
often there will be a
need to go
ZCon
there. But yeah,
in at in Tennessee, and
I'm
that's
such a
that
dork,
typically
man. Like
includes,
all I
yeah.
want is the Nissan brand stuff,
Me
man. I
too.
like.
Yeah.
I'm such a WHORE for that stuff. So yeah, I love that. But moving on. Anyway, but yeah, very cool. So good PSA. So let's talk a
Sure.
little bit about well, actually, before we go into the motorsports aspect, which is going to be a huge piece of the show here today,
It
we got
is.
to make sure that we don't have any comments that we need to go through. Nobody's saying anything. If you haven't said anything,
Uh,
say something. Give us some heads up. Let us know what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to talk about motorsports a lot tonight. So if you're a motorsports dork
Strap
or a
in
nerd, just definitely jump in. Feel free to poke and prod us about our experience that we're going to be talking about here tonight,
for
and we'll
sure.
continue on for the night. So,
Awesome.
um,
Given a few comments, so we did have some, of course. Justin JLE um, gave us a comp by as well. I think as we were talking about the R90 CK car going for auction, Myers Motorsports says, "I want it." Of
of
course.
course.
Oh, amazing piece of track history. Um, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, we can move on to motorsports, Miles.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got a lot to cover. I have the first article,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Oh, well, one thing Myers Motorsports said, speaking of swag, I'm assuming, I gave Mike Nissan swag to give to you from GT4. I am sure it's the tightest shirt that he could have. If they make a Nissan halvesy shirt, I'm sure if they still make those, if that's even a thing.
I'm
So I'm sure he picked through all the good stuff and left me with yeah, there you go. That was probably my shirt. It's no big deal.
ah.
I'm just kidding. It's all right. But yes, thank you again, Haley, for that. I know you were helping out a lot with the racing, the GT4 race team out there. But yeah, I thank you for being my swag gal while we were out there. That's the best. So yeah. So let's run into motorsports a little bit. Again, motorsports update here. This is a segment where we look into Nissan's current motorsports portfolio, its race entries, supported teams, grassroots teams, and how they're doing as a whole. So, Mike, you got the
Yeah,
first one. Let's do a Formula E update.
absolutely. That's exactly what we're going to talk about here. So, our first topic for motorsports is regarding the Nissan Formula E team. Just this last week, June 3rd and June 4th, we were at the streets of Jakarta in Indonesia. This was two races, round 10 and round 11. And we'll go ahead and give you a recap of what's going on here. Getting into qualifying to start off, qualifying one, uh, not so good. I won't lie. Neither of our cars made it into the duels segment of that qualifying. We've talked about it in the past episodes how, you know, I would say every racing league or series has a unique qualifying procedure, and Formula E is no different from that. So they have essentially a time attack, trying to find the best time, and then after a certain point they stop and then begin to do what they call duels, where two cars go head to head for the higher starting position. So again, unfortunately, during our qualifying, first round of qualifying, neither of our cars made it. But getting into that race, we did have some really good weather, and our two drivers, Sasha Finestras finished 19th, and then our other driver, Norman Nato, finished 12th in the first race. Neither of them brought in points for that first race. However, it was the second round of qualifying and the second race that really was a huge, I'm telling you, night and day difference for the team and for the drivers. So let's go ahead and get into it. The second qualifying that we had, uh, Sasha made it into the duels segment, specifically the quarterfinals. He was able to have a starting position for race two at P4. So that was a very, very good start for him. And then Normanotto qualified. Uh, where is he at? He qualified 12th for the beginning of that second race. Getting into the race, honestly, this has been the best result for the team all season. Sasha Finestras finished fourth in the race. He brought home
Nice,
12 points for the team. And
nice.
yeah, Norman Nato finished fifth. They were right back to back, fourth and fifth, two Nissans. Norman brought in 10 points for the team, a total of 22 points. The NISMO article that you see here, they really mentioned that not only these performance upgrades that we've mentioned in the past were a contributor to this success that we had here this weekend, but also very strong strategy, they said, contributed to the success they had during the second race this past weekend. Nissan is currently 8th as a constructor, and the next location will be happening in Portland, USA. So this would actually be the first time that Formula E has been in Portland. This is to be an inaugural race. It's happening June 24th, so just about 2 weeks from now. I've got a really interesting
Going over
here.
the
You can see the
bridges.
track information. Yep, it's a 2-mile circuit, 12 turns. There's going to be a lot of variables for the teams and for the drivers here at Portland because it is a new track. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to adapt to. There's no previous data that they can use to their benefit, so it's sort of like a level playing ground for many of the teams. So this could be a potential for the Nissan Formula E team to capitalize on that. So
That's some long straights. I know it's 12 turns, but I mean, for the length, I mean, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for passing here. So it's going to be
yeah.
some pretty tight. That's a tight little hairpin right there. But yeah, I mean, that's if you're looking for good seats, it's going to be between T1, T2, and T3. If you're looking for some damage, and then probably T7, that's where it's all going to happen right there. So, or
Yep.
T12, hell, shoot.
Even down here as well. You're right.
Maybe. I don't know, man. Honestly, it's good seating all around if I'm just looking at it. But yeah, T3, T2, T1 is where I'd be parked. Because that's
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
drama's going to happen.
Bust out the popcorn, man, and start having some fun. Yeah. Now, the best way for you guys to be able and watch this race, I won't lie, it's a little scarce currently. I'm on the Formula E site. Practice 1 and practice 2, you should be able to see very easily through the Formula E Center. I believe it's an app, but also through YouTube. Very, very common. You can go through YouTube to watch the practice sessions. It's qualifying and the E-Pre. I'll be honest with you, if you can see this on my screen, it says coming soon. We're not too sure exactly how you're going to be able to watch this race
Maybe they're
just
buying
yet.
their own channel or something like that. So it would
I
make sense. I mean,
I would certainly hope so because I would love to be able to have this series more accessible. Yeah,
and we'll talk. Same thing. Super GT, which we're going to talk about a little bit here tonight. They've got this motorsports thing locked up, motorsports.com, and it's just like the coverage is all like just like seriously, and I don't know. It's you have to wait like 24 hours anyway.
yeah.
I'm not going to complain.
Now, aside from that, getting after the weekend and all the action, you can see the highlights of the races, which is essentially where I get a lot of my information, aside from the Nissan media rooms, is through the YouTube highlights segment. They have some really good produced uh, highlights of the races, so I definitely
I
encourage
will say
watching
that
those.
their Instagram coverage, the team's Instagram coverage through the NISMO link is really cool. And they've got some great background shots because we've been following them for, a couple seasons now. And they do, whoever does all that as far as their production and their updates,
Yeah.
kudos to you because I love looking at all the updates and all the little fun inside, like horseplay that kind of happens. It's cool. It puts a face to the team. So if you're out there doing it, or if anybody's listening from that team, just want to let you know you're doing a great job. We love all the updates, and we'll continue to promote or help out in any capacity that we can in regards to that. So
Awesome, man. Yes. Now, for the next segment here on the Motorsports update, it's Super GT. This is your baby.
ooh, yeah,
Woo.
Super GT is been dramatic this last round, and I mean that. Normally it's like it's a good race, and it's all around just great racing. This one has been ups and downs, and it's been hairy, and it's a lot. So I'm gonna just try to make it as simplistic as It can be, but it is the closest thing. It's like a novella of just drama this last round. And I'll try to give you a summation of what happened. But if you get a chance, I would, out of all the races, even over last season, you definitely want to go back and watch this race because it gets pretty hairy.
Mm.
So for those that don't know, the round 3 of Super GT just occurred here recently. That was actually on the third and the fourth. Actually, the third for practice and qualifying, and then Sunday the fourth, which was the race. Now, I was actually watching a lot of this live, and it was, I was getting super excited, and then we got hit with drama. But before that, I'm going to kind of go into race results, and I'll talk you about what happened, some sadness, but some highlights on the backside. So I'll give you bad, and I'll give you sad.
Okay.
I'll give you the sad, the bad, sad, and the good. We'll leave it at that. So let's talk about 500 series because we got both the 500 series where the Z's are racing and the 300 series, which of course we have the Nissan GTRs kind of racing right now. In the 500 series racing, honestly, a good day for qualifying. Not the best. We've seen better from some of the race teams that were out there putting it down. The Impulse Z actually was in qualifying. They ended up the Morelli, excuse me, Impulse Z,
Ooh.
ended up putting down something like fourth place. That's actually where their position ended up for the day. And a kudos to those guys. They actually did a hell of a good job for putting in fourth place for qualifying. Motul Altec Z, not where I'd like to see them, but they actually were sitting in eighth place in qualifying. And the Nitira Motul Z ended up sitting around 12th. So that was the 500 class for qualifying. That's Saturday. Going into the 300 class, which we've got our GTRs, a little bit of better results. Surprisingly, it always is like that. Like when the Z's don't do good, the GTRs destroy. When the GTRs don't, they do a decent job, and the Z's kill. It's just like, give me both. Like so it's those days
Why
when
not both? Yeah.
why not both? Why can't I have everything? But so for qualifying for 300, great results. The Gainer to Nax GTR ended up putting in a second qualifying position. Then of course we got it, so a little bit of a delay, and then eighth, the Ponos Gator GTR. They've actually sat in eighth position, which is good for them. They've been a little bit below that in the past on the last two races. And then ninth, surprisingly, the Realized Nissan Mechanical Challenge GTR went down to ninth, which is surprising because those guys are usually killing it. But this is qualifying. Let's talk about race day. So, race day drama. Let's talk about that.
Ooh.
500 series. We've got the Z's going. Everybody's humping, pumping. And I can tell you right now, the Nitira Motul Z number 23 is out there smashing it. They're killing it. You've got Quintrinelli, who's out there, and he's just destroying that. I mean, he's out there killing it, and he's just they're doing such a good job. We start getting about midway through the race, and there's a little bit of fallback, so they're trying to make up position. I think they were sitting around fourth when we're coming into the lap that we don't want to talk about, which is lap number 58. Lap number 58 is where they're falling back, and unfortunately, we have the Nitira Z is going. The Nitira Motul Z is going out, and we've got two other cars that are a little wide. So it's a wide pass attempt, and basically the vehicle loses control. It goes so wild that it actually ends up taking out a barrier. And if you don't know the car that we're talking about, by the way, let me if you don't mind, I'd like to share the screen so you
Sure.
kind of see what I'm talking about here. So this is the car that we're kind of talking about in question. This has been the car that's really been kind of killing it within the last few races, and we've seen so much PR about. Unfortunately, this car gets demolished while during this pass attempt. And this is where it ended up being.
Oh no.
So round 58 was such a massive crash that they actually had to reset. They had to put everybody back into position. And because they couldn't fix the barrier to a safety standard, they ended up having to shut the race down as a whole. Now,
Wow.
at the time that they're shutting it down, they're talking about putting everybody in position. And at that moment, and this is where it starts to get a little dramatic and a little heated, the Nitera Motul Z actually was placed as first place in the race. And that, because they had to wait for everything to kind of calm down,
Dust to settle, the
the dust
drama.
to settle. Um, Literally, the other team rivals lost it, and they were like, no way that vehicle, we're doing it by position at the time of the last lap. So there was protests, and a few hours later it all got changed up, which actually made it put the Nitera Motul Z in fourth place. The third place position ended up going to the Morelli Impulse Z, so they actually got bumped up to third place,
Okay.
where they were previously sitting in fourth. So a weird bit of positioning there. So the Morelli Impulse Z took third. Nitera Motul Z officially took fourth place. Eighth place, Realize Advan Z sat in eighth place. 13th, Motul Altec Z. So that was kind of how things laid out for the day. Now, if you're worried about the driver, I know this looks like an extremely horrific crash.
Yes, it does.
This is actually Quintarinelli was not driving at the time. It was actually Matsudo who was behind the wheel at the time. Um, Thankfully, there was really no major injuries for him. Just a testament to how they built that car. He was taken to hospital, but it was later acknowledged that he had no major injuries. Thankfully,
That's so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
just I was amazed at that. So yeah, not the best day. I will say that and we'll talk about the gap here. Like, you're like, oh, what are we gonna do? This car's demolished. Hold up, there's a plan. There's been rumors and everything have been trickling, but let me
Okay.
talk about 300 series. So on the 300, on the GTR side, let's talk about how the day ended up. Final position, the fourth place, the Realized Nissan Mechanical Challenge GTR. Like I always tell you, those guys, they put the full effort through, and they ended up taking fourth place
Woo.
overall. Fifth place, Gainer to Next GTR. They fell down a little bit, but they still ended up taking in fifth. Eighth place, the Ponos Gainer GTR. So yeah, not a bad result for Nissan. It would have been a little bit nicer to get higher in the points. I'm really bummed that we had a protest and we couldn't get that Nitera Motul Z to finish in a higher points position, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. Now, this was round three. This was obviously at Suzuka, and it was just the last week. Now we've got a car that's down right now, number 23. But I will say Nissan and the racing team are doing everything they can to put that vehicle back into position and ready for the next race. Luckily, we have the actually most significant gap in the series, so we do not have another race till 8-5, which is going to be in Fuji. So
Uh,
that gives
eight
us
five August.
yeah, yep.
Wow, that's a huge gap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we've
Okay.
got a 2 month gap time, which
Whew.
is, kind of
Needed.
favorable. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yes.
not, obviously we couldn't have had a race, but it couldn't have been better as far as like having enough time, because normally you have about roughly a 3 week to 4 week stint. This is giving us almost, an 8 week stint of damn near an 8 week stint of gap. So it allows the time to put the vehicle into builds, and then of course get all the testing and tuning kind of rocking and rolling for that car. So I hope that the 23 comes back, rises like a phoenix, if it were, and comes back and kicks butt. So we'll see how it goes for round four. But again, if you get a chance, go to YouTube and check out the round three. It's some really good racing up until the incident. And Nissan has I'm still waiting for that Nissan update to the YouTube channel, which I
Mm.
absolutely love and I follow religiously. So once that comes around, I think they're kind of waiting for a couple things to die down. And we'll definitely put it on our page. You can check it out. And if it hasn't already been released while we're talking. So yeah.
Awesome, man. Again, yeah, it's unfortunate to see that car is as much damage as it had. Was that was that the same car that remember last season we covered another accident? It was a major accident. It was where we saw the chassis spinning and
It was a
spinning and
full
spinning.
full spin. That was on I think it was on the God, I can't remember. That was another significant accident. That was a very serious
I
accident too.
remember that. Yeah.
I think they
I
shut it down. It was like a rainy day, if I remember correctly. I remember you're talking. It was on the back straight, and it was just like it was a bad one.
yeah. I,
So
I I I don't remember top of mind whether or not it was the same car, number 23 car,
I don't
or
think it
not. But
was. I think it was. Damn it. Now, okay. Well,
I don't want
anybody
to put you on
remembers
that.
which
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Comments.
challenge it because I'm going to start guessing, and then I look like I don't know what I'm talking about, which is weird because I
Right.
don't.
Right.
But if anybody knows or has an update on it, let us know. Or if you're going through the history and want to nerd out with us, let us know where that significant crash was and who it was last year, and maybe we'll be nice to you in some way with swag. I don't know. We'll figure something out. So, but
Cool.
yeah, so that's Super GT in a fiery ball of nutshell for this season. So we'll keep you updated as we move on. Now, Mike, we haven't updated in a while on this. We actually kind of we're waiting for some of the updates, but Centra
Yeah.
Micro Cup, based out of Canada, you wanted to cover it this time. Let's go through it because we haven't touched it in a while.
It's been a while, and it's a good point too. As we've been covering all of the other motorsports races, we're already obviously in, round 3, round 7, round 10. Uh, for Centra Cup and for Micro Cup here, actually this was the first round of the season. So they started their season rather, I don't want to say late. Every season's unique. This is definitely, grassroots is no different. But yeah, we are into the rounds 1 and round 2 of the Centra Cup, and I'll go ahead and add my screen to that. Again, yes, this is a grassroots racing series based in Canada. It's 6 weekends throughout the year, from May through September, and it is exclusive to spec Nissan Sentras and microcars. Again, this last May 26th and 27th is where we saw round 1 and round 2. It was at the Circuit Mont Tremblant at the Quebec. And then, of course, moving into the race results, just kind of want to give you guys a few highlights. Again, we're so early into the race, into the series, I should say. So, starting with the Sentra class, it was number 32, Alexander Fortin wins round 1 of Sentra class. Uh, and then moving into round 2, fastest car, fastest Sentra here was the number 88 car, Simon Chabonneau wins round 2. That name is very familiar. I know we've mentioned him in the
Yeah,
past.
I felt like we talked about him a lot in the last season. I mean, it sounds very familiar. I feel like he was a lot of the lap leaders, and he was like best time. If I remember last season, I just remember saying his name so many times last season.
Yes,
But
it's yeah, it's not his first rodeo. I know that much. I mean, he's been a part of the Century Cup for multiple years now, and I know because we've covered it. That name is very you remember it, Both of these cars, as part of their best lap, they're hovering just under 2 minutes, about the 1 minute 59 second range as your best laps uh, during each race. I do want to give a shout out. He wasn't a winner, however, he was the fastest car on the track for both rounds. His name is Nicholas Barrett. I hope I'm getting that right, though. Again, fastest man on track in his Sentra. He was also in the 159s. However, he just barely edged out all of the racers in both races to claim that title. So props to him, and want him to keep it up. Definitely an accolade to have. Um, Moving into the micro class, the winner of both round 1 and round 2 was number 91 car Simon Vincent. He honestly, to my opinion, he is doing a fantastic job in his Nissan Micra. We mentioned just a second ago that these Sentras, their best laps were 1 minute and 59 seconds. He's in a car that has 40 horsepower less and is about 600 pounds lighter. Uh, However, he is only his best laps are at 2 minutes and 4.3 seconds. So again, a car that's underpowered, lighter, I'll give him that, but it's still 40 pounds, 40 horses less, and he's only what is that? About 5 seconds, just under 5 seconds behind the fastest Sentras. So to me, this just based on the numbers, to me, I'm impressed. I'm just like he's hanging very, very close to a lot of these Sentras. The one thing that I keep reminding myself, or what I think about when I see these numbers, is it's much more entertaining to watch a slow car being driven fast than a fast car being driven slowly. So I want to say that again, props um, to Simon Vincent, man, for putting on a show for those who are spectators on these races. I would imagine he's definitely a fun driver to watch. Again, just based on these numbers from a distance, as we are, definitely want to give him props. Um, for the Central Cup here, the next race is happening July 9th. Rounds 3 and 4 are happening at the Complex iCar in Maribel, Quebec. This is actually part of the Nissan Grand Prix weekend. It's an entire weekend of Nissan related events, races at this particular track. I remember this same kind of arrangement was done last year, and quite a good time. So if you are a Nissan enthusiast and you are in the Mirabel, Quebec area, definitely give us a shot. You've got plenty of time, about a month from now. Find some tickets, go out there, have some fun, and get yourself introduced with the Centra Cup, man. I really think it's a really good event for you to check out. Again, I keep on saying this. I hope maybe one of these days we'll get one in the U.S. Um, I actually looked on the price, at least the last time the article was presented. A spec'd Sentra Cup is about $40,000. I mean, you get a prepped car, a prepared car for competition for 40,000, give or take. So, very, very low cost to entry, and I imagine it just being a pretty fun car to drive around. So, uh, yeah, man.
Well, like I said, thanks for the coverage of the Nissan Sentra and the Micro Cups. Again, we would love to do more of it. Honestly, we just need more. We're looking for the better coverage all the time for that event. So if we can get the better coverage, we'll definitely talk about it more.
Can
But it feels like it's always trickled, and then it's in French. And I'm gonna tell you right now,
That's hard.
my French is as good as my Spanish, my Japanese, and just about every other language that I fail to master in any way whatsoever. So
What if we had if we find ourselves a Canadian correspondent who typically just happens to be there at most of the races? Like we put them on, like that would be kind of cool for anybody who's listening. He knows somebody, have them contact us, man. We
yeah, if you want to be our correspondent, you have the job. No qualification
no qualifications.
because
Yeah,
it literally we're always like either fumbling through the French based names, and I'm sure they're like ooh cringing, ooh just
yeah.
we can make it better. No, so yeah, it's about as good. It's about as good as I can get with that. But yes, again, we love covering the event. We hope to see more updates, and we'll definitely try to keep you abreast of what's happening with that event.
Sure.
Now, going into more localized here in the States, of course, we were covering the Nissan Challenge. We've got a few of those guys on with us here tonight, and we never leave them out. So, again, let's talk about the Nissan Challenge. For those that aren't aware of the Nissan Challenge, this is, again, a grassroots racing series based out of the SoCal area. So, if you are in and around California and you're a Nissan racing enthusiast, grassroots especially, you need to start getting familiar with these guys. Again, they just finished out a recent race that was actually round 4. That was on June 3rd at Willow Springs International Raceway. They actually had a race that went out there for, again, they do right now, I think they're doing 4 classes. And of those 4 classes, we're going to usually give you a breakdown of what happened for the race leaders. Class 1, no surprise here, Mr. Charles Parks still killing it with, I swear to God.
DTR.
And I love
Yeah.
Charles, but I'm like, yo, man, give somebody a break, all right?
Give somebody else a chance.
Maybe get the flu, all right? Maybe not be so amazing. but yeah, no. Kudos to Charles. I mean, he's an excellent racer,
Absolutely.
of course. A true motorsports enthusiast. Not to mention the fact he owns his own suspension company. Probably helps out too as well. But we love you, Charles. Keep killing it out there. But he did a great job. He ended up, of course, doing the same. He ended up taking first place. Second place actually went out to a James Funtas. He actually followed not too far behind Mr. Parks in his vehicle. Let's see here. Third place went out to Miguel Santiago. So kudos to him. Class number 2. Let's see what we got going on here. First place went out to Luke Litterman. Kudos to him. Second place, Natalie Weeby. If I said that correctly, I hope so. But yes, kudos to Natalie for taking second place. She'd also, by the way, taken first place at round 2. So kudos, Natalie. Third place, keep up your points. Third place actually went out to a David Hartel in class 2. Let's go into class 3. Class 3, it actually turned out to be Adams Ya. He has been doing great. He's been doing first, second, first and just kind of killing it in that series in his Z33. So a big shout out to him. I think he actually even broke a lap record if the updates on corner3motorsports.com are doing me justice. Second place in class 3, that went out to a Nate Rosso. Kudos to Nate. Third place ended up coming for a Sonia Klaus. She actually put it down for a Z33 in third place, so kudos to her. Class 4, the unsung heroes, and actually my favorite class of everything that's out there. So I'm just going to give you the first because that's what it updates here for the website. First place went out to Edgar Filetto. He actually took first place in his S14. So a kudos to Edgar in an S14 holding it down again.
Yeah.
So to do it out there amongst everything else, because that class does everything from like B13s, 300ZXs, S30s. So yeah, they got a lot. B13s, B14s, all the Sentras, all the good stuff. So yeah. So again, if you're not familiar with the Nissan Challenge and it's in your neck of the woods, you got no excuses. You need to kind of chime on to those guys and keep updated. Again, you can check out all their updates and all the new races through corner3motorsports.com. Let's see here, round 5. And surprisingly enough, we have Edgar on tonight, and he was commenting on the gap in racing time right now because it is hot in summer. Edgar said, good to see we're not the only ones taking a break for the summer. This past weekend was brutal in the heat of Willow Springs. So again, all those racers that I just mentioned for results did it in the sweat box that was Willow Springs just recently. So yeah, kudos to them. They earned it, and they also lost a lot of poundage and water weight while they're racing.
You win twice, brother.
He went twice. Man. Looked good the next day. He lost all the weight. All the longhas are gone. All right. Let's talk about this race. It's got a bit of a break, like you did mention. July 9th, we're going to be doing round 3 and 4 coming up, I believe. That will be, I apologize. What would they do 2 rounds? That's going to be round 5 is September 17th. That will actually happen at Buttonwillow Raceway Park. So remember, again, corner3motorsports.com. Edgar and John are your folks running that. We give them a big salute for keeping up the grassroots mentality of racing. If we have any of our Nissan friends out there, they need help. Help them out financially and swag. Whatever you can do to kind of keep that going, those guys are campfire for racing right now. So kudos to them.
We've had a really good interview with him not too long ago, earlier this year. So knowledgeable, man, not only about cars and technical aspects of it, but also improvements to make on the track. So very, very knowledgeable. And then we're going to see them at ZCon because they are involved with the track day, I believe, participating, if not more, during ZCon.
No, we expect them to do everything.
Everything.
Everything. I expect them to work themselves to the bone. No, I'm just kidding. Those guys are going to be at ZCon, and they're going to be to me, one of the highlights is Zcon. So it's going to be awesome to be able to see those guys again. Edgar, I'm not breaking your chops here, but you need more YouTube, baby. Give me YouTube. You guys need to start like a channel on how to make cars fast, because you guys are geniuses at making reasonable cars faster. And I don't know
Yeah.
why you don't do it and spread that wealth of knowledge. Get yourselves a YouTube video. Everybody wants to see you, Edgar, on the interwebs doing that and giving out that information, because nobody's doing that, and you guys are so good at it, and you've got this wealth of knowledge. I'm just saying, do it. But
Yeah.
anyway, we love you. We hope we hope to see you guys at ZCon. And again, you can check those guys out at corner3motorsports.com and the challenge series. All right.
Very cool, man. Again, getting back to some of our comments just before we get into our next segment. We were talking about, let's see here. Yeah, we had Edgar's comment. Also, regarding the heat and the temperature, Myers Motorsports, of course, says yes, heat, specifically heat in Texas at Circuit of the Americas. Uh, Even in March, it's not even hot yet, but it is definitely brutal. Edgar did also mention that he will be instructing at ZCon during that track day. And Miles, something that we touched on, that you touched on just at the beginning of the show, we said, hey, what about those Australia guys? We got our boy Brad in the house. He did comment saying that we found us again. Thank you for being here, Brad.
So,
Uh,
Brad,
Woo! It's like lunchtime for him right now. That's how crazy it is.
check
He's
out the
enjoying his
big
lunch
brain
break.
on Brad.
That's it.
Good job. Thanks, brother, for joining us. I know it's
Thank you,
probably
man.
like 3 a.m. where you're at. So, yeah, thanks for being on with us tonight. So.
For sure, man. All right, man. So that wraps up motorsports.
Now we've got the big. Now we've eaten the veggies. We've eaten the meat and potatoes. Now we're gonna eat the cake. So I know I didn't get an opportunity to make this event. Unfortunately, I had other arrangements somewhere else. But
Mhm.
you and actually our sister motorsports group, Myers Motorsports, were nice enough to give us some excellent coverage of this event. And I was watching you
Yep.
guys give updates. All You've got these great interviews. I mean, there was so much kind of going on, and I'll obviously let you time to talk about this. But you did a great GT4 coverage for this last week, and let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
All right, man. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, man. I definitely tried my best to be to give as much share as much coverage of the event that entire weekend. We had lots and lots happening for sure, though. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, though. Of course, this last recap that we want to give for motorsports was coincidentally the GT4 America Series at the Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas. Specifically, who we were looking for was the TechSport Racing team. They were competing with their pair of Nissan Z GT4 cars, along with the support of Nissan and NISMO engineers and program managers. Um, we've been covering GT4 America since the Z car began this season, late March. And we've been fortunate to watch this particular race firsthand, which took place May 19th through the 21st. Like you said, Miles, I understand that you couldn't make it, but what I'm thinking you can do, man, is just play the role of uninformed fan, and I'm going to try my best to just tell you what it's like.
I
Uh,
will definitely do my best to be uninformed. So.
Yeah, yeah. And for you, those of you online, we're gonna do our best as well. It is a very, very loaded weekend. We're gonna try our best to kind of get this thing into bite-size segments, though, man. But it was a hell of a weekend. You can't. There's so much to share because all of it was so amazing, man. It really was. So it's been a lot of fun here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Um, so in fact, actually, we were able to walk the COTA pit area the Thursday before practice. So we were able to get in there before most of the coverage actually happened, which was the perfect time to get in there. Many of the teams were not as stressed as they were going to be that weekend, particularly. So we were able to introduce ourselves to the TechSport Racing team and to Nissan and to the NISMO engineers. Uh, I gotta say though, man, they were so gracious and friendly. Like I said, it's race week. Emotions are high. There's only 7 weekends that this season takes place, and you got to imagine every one of those weekends. Everybody involved is so focused on the car and so focused on the track, and then just for them to just stop for a moment and say hi to you and allow us to introduce ourselves and be so receptive and kind. I couldn't say enough, man, about everybody that was there and who kind of welcomed us to their pit area, their paddock area. Uh, Specifically, we had the TechSport Racing owners. We had Kevin and Deborah from Nissan. We had Greg Nelson. We also had Daniel Malm. And then also with the NISMO engineers, I do want to give a shout out to Mago-san and Ko-san. They were two of the engineers that we were able to chat with, and we do have an interview coming up that we'll share with you here in the next couple of days. Very, very fun. Again, for them to give us their time just to be personable with them, talk with them, and it's such an experience, man. It was so fun. Uh, anyway, moving into it here. Let's see who we got. Kind of getting into it though. This was Nissan's re-entry into GT4 America in a while. So with the new Z, so for us, Miles, this is really our first year actually covering the GT4 series. So I'm learning a lot. I know I'm learning a lot. I'm sure you might be as well.
You know that there's a huge history. Like it's crazy. Like and I swear that I watched when we knew GT4 was going to be happening. I was like, I need to get up on my GT history.
Yeah,
And I literally sat and watched 3 different YouTube videos about the history of the GT series,
oh,
and it is just crazy. And then so many things are like meshed together. And this is what happened. Oh, and they killed that series. And then this got changed, and the gentleman's drivers got moved from here to here. And it's just like, oh my God, like it's insane. Like to really know where all the chips have landed as
yeah,
far as a racing series. But as far as like GT4, from everything that I've, caught it, because luckily with us having a significant and just amazing racetrack in our backyard. We've caught GT before, as it's kind of come through COTA and in the past, but Nissan wasn't a part of it whatsoever. It was just so happens like, hey, let's go check out some racing.
yeah.
And we've done it in the past. But with Nissan being involved, we're just like, oh, we got to get up on our game.
Oh, we've got to.
But it's crazy. The GT4 is pretty much like entry level for racing teams. And I know you got a lot more detail in regards to that, but it's just it's I'm sure you had an opportunity to kind of probe and prod about what it was like for Nissan just to kind of get off the ground, get into the racing series. What was that like? Or go ahead.
It's actually a lot of fun, man. I'll be honest. So, like you mentioned, sort of how GT4 series fits within the realm of all the other series that are out there. It is one of the what would you call it? It's one of the easier tiers of professional racing to
Okay.
enter financially, as opposed to a GT3, which is uh, might have a budget of double, if not more than that. So you definitely, if you are a you might say semi-professional driver or a team that's trying to kind of really grow themselves, the GT4 series is really a good fit for you. It really can be. It is one of those building blocks until you get to higher levels of racing that typically have way more budgets and really uh, a lot more stakes are on the line for sure. Um, when it comes to uh, how you said how Nissan kind of gets involved. I mean, like I said, not only was this the racing team, the GT4 racing team, but you had again the support of Nissan and Nismo on site. And from what I was told, I believe that they're going to be at every race. So researching this car, they are the ones responsible for the performance of this car and the adjustments that they make. This isn't some seat of the pants type of improvements. They've got data logging serious numbers that they can able to track and see in real time to understand exactly what adjustments to make, not only for the car to be faster, more performance, but also tailor it to specific tracks because every track's different. You've got some tracks got more straights, some have more corners or are more technical, and so those adjustments are definitely uh, different and unique for every race that they're having this season.
Absolutely.
Um,
Now let's talk.
yeah.
Not to sidetrack a little bit, but let's talk about where we are right now. So this was round three,
No, round five's round six.
round,
So
round
it's
five and
the
six. That's right.
third stop, but it's rounds five, round six. Yeah,
Okay,
each.
so
Yeah.
but I want to give a shout out. Of course, obviously Nissan was very nice and offered an opportunity for everybody to come out. And you're going to talk a little bit about that, but Nissan's been great about making sure they're taking care of the Nissan fanatics at every single event throughout this series, throughout the rounds that happen. Because I know I've been seeing updates from our friends and Z family and Nissan family, at NOLA,
Yeah.
throughout recently. So again, I did want to give a quick shout out to all those people that helped organize all those pre-existing races and this one too as well.
Yep.
There are a lot of people that kind of put the hard work in to make sure that the fans, the hardcore Nissan fans,
Yes.
were well taken care of. And those that also have been helping to promote like the ZCCA and the Z convention.
Yep.
Chris Carl, especially, he was very instrumental in kind of making sure that we coordinated a lot of that. Dennis Whittakin, this last,
Dennis for sure.
uh,
Yep.
who runs the actual Z Club of Austin
And Brad.
at this
Yeah.
point. Well,
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
and some of the other folks. I think Harold may have had a piece of that too as well, who's on with us tonight. So again, I mean,
Yes.
if I'm leaving anybody out, my apologies, but because there's so many people that did. But I did want to give a shout out to all those kind of unsung heroes that put in a lot of work for just us other Nissan fanatics out there. So kudos.
You bring out a good. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Uh, you bring a good point, and what I'm going to do here, which really brings up a good point here, I'm going to share a slideshow, just numerous photos, and it includes something that we actually spoke about in the last episode, which was the Nissan Car Corral. That was where, like you mentioned, the diehard Nissan fans got together, not only to enjoy the track and to root on their favorite team, but honestly, dude, we've got some really nice Nissan posters, shirts, promotional shirts. We were actually provided with track day. Sorry, a parade lap. We had a
Oh wow,
parade lap on there,
man! You
dude.
you
Dude,
man, full
I mean,
advantage.
and for the price of admission, which was very very affordable, you got to do all of this, much less make friends or reconnect with your friends you already know, and do this special thing. We actually had drivers come over and join us at the car corral, and even the engineers. The engineers went over to all our cars and were to the site, and were able to sign a
Start
few
pick.
things for us. And yeah, dude, it was really really cool. So I'll run these in the background again, not to distract, but we'll go ahead and let this run.
No, it's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. In the background. So again, I'll let this run. But something that you did mention, Miles, we're kind of getting back to it regarding the GT4 program and how Nissan fits in. Again, based on some of the conversations I had with the NISMO engineers, is that you know they're on site gathering data and making improvements to the car. Or making notes on how to improve the car. Because remember, GT4, the rule book, it's a homologation where the car has to be a production model that they take and prepare within specific rules as a formula, like many other series might have. So for them to really improve the car in some ways, in some major ways, they have to actually improve the production car first so that it qualifies to improve to improve the track car too. So that's kind of what this year is. One of the key words I heard this year was that this is a building year. It's the first year that the new Z car is competing specifically in the U.S. And Nissan in the U.S. For this cup in a long time. So I think what you're seeing this season is a series of improvements that will lead to a more durable or more higher performance production car. And then in 2024 or even 2025, you're going to see those improvements being transferred to production car, and then thus making the GT4 car equally as better. In addition, some of the improvements that they are making are to the suspension or the aero of it or the cooling, powertrain, drivetrain. These are just some of the categories at which some of these improvements will reflect eventually onto the production car. So, one of the best ways I could think about it, and again, this is just my personal, what I was thinking to myself was that this GT4 series is essentially multiple manufacturers, their R&D teams are testing these cars at a racetrack that just so happens to be filled with spectators, so it's like a live demonstration or exhibition of R&D testing. Again, that's just kind of the way I thought about it. In some ways there's more to it than that, but um, again, these developments that you're seeing are going into the production car models. In fact, one of the engineers we spoke with was one of the engineers responsible for the production car. He found his way to the racing program so that he can easily carry on the notes they've made onto the production model, send
So
them back to his
some of these part
headquarters.
developments are actually going to turn into, I guess, purchasable products through Nissan or
Well,
Nissan Motorsports.
purchasable products may be one, but also, for example, perhaps some of the changes that they need to make to be more competitive is in, who knows, the body stampings, or the
All right.
shape of a control arm, or these are just examples. So,
Development. Yeah.
and it has to be a production part. So they're improving the production car so that it can be homologated, so that its version spec will go into the GT4 program in
All right.
future years. So it's this whole sense of continuous improvement, not only for them but for us as uh, owners of this car and enthusiasts of this car. It's really a good exercise to know that that Nissan specifically, or Nissan, is always trying to improve the new Z car. Uh, for
So,
sure, man.
right, and I'm just kind of going through some of the photos here. You're sitting down with all these. I mean, you're right in the middle of it all, man. I mean, kudos to you
Dude,
guys. So,
y- you're absolutely right. Like I mentioned earlier, though, the TechSport Racing team, again, I can't say enough about them. Kevin and Deborah, they really opened up the entire paddock to us. In fact, this picture you see right here, just briefly, was the TechSport Racing team and the Nissan and NISMO teams getting together for a birthday. It was one of their drivers, Colin Harrison, celebrated his birthday at the Austin track. Everybody got together. It was this whole sense of family and how close and tight knit these teams are, celebrating one of their drivers' birthday. And then after all that, we sing happy birthday, and they know what, they handed us a plate with some cake on. Hey, you hungry? And just that's, it kind of really gives you an idea of how hospitable they were and how kind they were to us, man. I really can't say enough about it, man.
that's awesome,
For
man.
sure.
Yeah, it's always good when you have a sense of family within the race team, and then they're again open to really having the hardcore Nissan fans to kind of come out. Man, I mean, they brought out all the good stuff. I see the GTR there. I see the new Frontier. So yeah, they really brought out all the goodies. So
And you're right. These photos, again, they're not in any particular order, so they
no,
are kind of a mixed match.
I
But
love
what you do
this.
see here is obviously the Nismo engineers here with the drivers, with the TechSport Racing team. You do have this, some pictures from the car corral. These are some of our local enthusiasts that made it. And then you also have the Nissan uh, promotional trailer, which had the Frontier that you saw, and that had the 370s. The new Z car, and also the 2024 GTR, the car that we
Yeah, so
just
we were
spoke
just
about.
talking about this, just talking about it.
Man,
So
they had one there, man. It was so beautiful, man, and it's just that particular color really gets me, man. So
oh,
it
it's a great
was,
color. But
yeah,
let's check some comments real quick. So
yeah.
here's Motorsports, obviously, who's one of the most excited people that I've ever met in regards to GT4, which is, of course, Haley, chiming in on with us tonight. She goes, she's been dreaming of that GT4 weekend for 3+ years for the new Z debut. Dream come true for sure. And I can tell you right now, as a person who has sat in a bar watching Haley watch GT4, she's it's the loudest person I could say in the bar. Everybody else will be doing something like it'll be karaoke, and she's like, "What?
So
No!
so
Ah!"
passionate, man, for
I'm so
sure.
passionate. So yeah, we love Haley, and I love to watch her watch the race. It's actually just as entertaining. Let me see here. I want to say one thing, man. You know, we've watched the races obviously all this season,
Hmm.
but GT4, for those that haven't witnessed or checked out a race, it's amazing how packed, how much traffic there is on the course at that particular time. I mean, one of the photos you have in here in the backdrop is just, you can see the tire transfer from just the rubbing, from another vehicle. It's insane. Look,
Look
I
at
mean,
that
right
picture.
there, look at that
Yes.
picture right there. Look how much traffic is going on, and for those drivers to be putting it down the way they are. And
Yep.
we know, one of our good friends, Brian Highcotter, which we were so
The
jazzed
man.
that the
Yeah.
man. I love Brian. He's a great guy, amazing driver, and I was so jazzed that he was going to be on this early on. We couldn't
Hmm.
really release too much information until it went public, but I was just so proud of him, and that he's on the team. And they're everybody, all the drivers are really just killing it right now.
Yeah. You.
They are all just doing such a good job. I mean, we've got Colin Harrison, Eric Powell, the number 22,
Yeah.
and then of course number 23, Brian Highcotter, and of course Mr. Tyler Stone. So those guys are,
Yeah.
I mean, just killing it. Haley chimed in one more
Yeah.
time. She said, "I might be slight biased, but Colin, Eric, Brian, and Tyler are some of the most humble and wonderful drivers I've had the
Yeah.
opportunity to work with. Such rad,
I
rad dudes." So
I agree completely. Just having spoken with them multiple times throughout the weekend, not only about the racetrack, but also just trying to, especially with Brian. We've ran into him at ZCon, ZCons in the past, and at other events, Super Lap Battle. Even we've run into him before. Obviously, yourself and myself, we've been fans of his for a while now. Again, so just easy to speak with. Like just they're in it just as much as they're fans just as much as we are, and I mean they just got some great experience driving careers, so they're very much in tune with the car, and then they'll share that with you as well as you kind of get into it. And I mean I learned so much from them, and again not everybody has to do that, man, but the fact that they actually took the time and decided to, I agree, man. Very, very down to earth. The TechSport Racing team couldn't have picked a better set of drivers, and I really think that a lot of them. And we'll get into it hopefully in the future here with some future interviews, perhaps that we find out that you know they're actually friends with each other even outside of the track as well. I really want to think that as well, based on the conversations we had. I'll give you an example, man. We stopped and got barbecue one night with two of the drivers. And we're able to kind of catch up with them and show them a little bit of Austin in their downtime, specifically the barbecue. So uh, again, just such down to earth guys, man. I couldn't have
we
been.
couldn't let them leave Texas without having a
Yeah,
barbecue challenge. I'm not saying our barbecue is far superior to the rest of the United States, but I mean it could go in a fisticuffs. I'm not saying Tennessee does it any different or any weird. I'm just saying maybe it's the same. It's different. I'm not saying anybody's better, but Texas has an opportunity to come out on top of barbecue. But
pretty damn sweet,
we
man.
we'll if we ever get an interview with the drivers, it's one of the things that we'll probably have a side conversation about. All right, who's got the best barbecue? How's that going?
Mm,
So we'll see how it goes. So,
all
but
right.
yeah, I'm glad you had an opportunity to kind of hang out with those guys, and get some feedback. Now you also, I watched a lot of the feed and everything, and you were sending me a lot of videos, and of course we've released a lot on the Nissan Nerd page. So if you have an
Yes.
opportunity to go through that, there's a lot of content. It did not stop shooting, and then of course Myers Motorsports on their Instagram page, which we'll have Haley throw it up here in the comments. She obviously was behind the scenes early on. She's got some great behind the scenes coverage, and of course you can check out the race teams as well and check their information out. But
Yeah.
not to sidetrack, but yeah, that's great, man. And
Yeah.
again, you did full on interviews, right?
We did. So again, that was sort of the something that we're so grateful for here. With the podcast, we were able to get into a room with some of the drivers and also with some of the NISMO engineers.
You got in with the
Um,
engineers. You got normally you can never speak to those guys because they're just so focused on what they do.
so focused for one, and I gotta say, man, shout out to Greg Nelson with Nissan, the motorsports program. Is that he was the facilitator behind doing that. Gotta say, when I first met him, I told, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Mike, Nissan Nerd Podcast." Try to introduce myself. He goes, "Hey, I know you. I watch you." I'm like, "No
No,
way,
no
man!" It
way,
made my day,
no
man.
way.
No way.
So
But seriously, and the fact that we had kind of a friend immediately, we had a friend that was obviously in a position to kind of facilitate this
that's
couple
awesome, man.
minutes. It
Yeah.
really was an honor to speak with them, with him also, and then with the Anismo engineers. Um, you're right. Getting into interviews, we have two interviews to share with you guys. Um, this evening and also in this upcoming weekend, we're going to release a long form interview. The first one that we'll share is with Brian Highcotter and Tyler Stone. We were able to catch them for about 12 minutes before one of the Sunday morning race, and really just kind of talk to them about their experience on the track, the improvements they're making, and some of the preparations they were actually making for that particular race. And we're going to share a little teaser with you guys in just a moment. Uh, one of the other interviews that you'll see is actually a very, very long form. It was well over 40 minutes. We were able to actually speak with the NISMO engineers. It's in the middle of being essentially edited and remastered to kind of give you guys the best quality video. And again, it'll be released here. Honestly, within the next couple of days, we will be sure to promote it through our page, through the YouTube channel, and through our social media channels. We'll send you the link. Um, what we need you guys to do is just definitely subscribe to our page, subscribe to like our page, follow us, and really that's going to do us a lot of good, but also give you guys an awesome interview at the moment it gets released. So with those, um, you want to check out this interview, man?
Yeah, yeah. Give it. Let's drop this, man. I mean, we got to give it. Now, this is essentially a teaser of
This
one of
is
the few interviews that one of the many interviews you did. So yeah, drop it on me. Let's go.
let's go for it, man. Like I said, like you mentioned, this is a teaser. It's about 4 minutes long. The full interview, again, all of it is good content, but for the sake of the podcast, and you know how long we can get on these podcasts, the whole idea was to encourage you guys to come check out the um, the YouTube channel, and to also really just watch it at your leisure when you guys get a chance. So let's go ahead and share this one again. Without further ado, this is our interview with Brian Highcotter and Tyler Stone, co-drivers of the number 23 white and red Nissan GT4 Z car. And let's give it a shot, man. Hi guys, for those of you with us, thank you for being here. It is Sunday morning here at Circuit of the Americas. We are in the TechSport Racing paddock and inside their rig and carrier office combination all in one, I figure. We are with the co-drivers of the number 23 white and red Nissan Z GT4. We've got Brian Highcotter and Tyler Stone with these. I know you guys are very, very busy race day. Again, early this morning. Thank you for taking a few moments to talk. Absolutely. Thanks again. Getting into the action that's happened this weekend, I know I took some notes here regarding qualifying, even practice. I know practice track times was around the 219s area, and then getting into qualifying, you had a over 3 seconds saved. You're just under 216. You're at 215.97. Any type of adjustments that y'all made between practice and qualifying at all that helped with that advantage that you found?
Well, I think a lot of that time difference between practice and qualifying was going out on low fuel and qualifying on sticker tires, and it was a cool morning, so track conditions were pretty good.
It was cool.
The power was making good power, so you kind of put all that together, plus the improvements and adjustments we've been making to the car throughout practice sessions
Clayton, I don't know what it is, but I don't qualify as well as I race for some reason. That's just been a hurdle I've been trying to overcome through the years. But for example, in race one, it kind of paid off because there was just a wad of cars that in turn one.
Especially turn one.
I don't know how many I counted. It was 6 or 8 wide going into turn one. Cars everywhere, and so I saw it starting to occur. Was able to go wide. The 22, Colin Harrison, and the 22 also saw it and both went wide right. And I still almost. I mean, I have to go back and look, but it was pretty close to McLaren when he got hit. And anyway, that's just something that I have to get over. But then throughout the race, it seemed like the car, once the tires level out and get in your groove, it seemed like my pace was actually picking up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the pace falls off depending on the tire degradation and things like that, track conditions. But I just felt really uncomfortable. At that point.
Things have been addressed. I know race 2 is actually happening very shortly here, so I know I need to get you guys on back in the paddock here. Any feelings about this race up ahead that you have this morning? I know it's a little rainy.
That's the interesting element right now. It's kind of drizzly, and then it stops, and then it drizzles some more, and then it stops. And so the ground here in the paddock is damp. It's not puddled.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what track conditions are when we get out there, whether we need wet tires or dry tires or what's going on. So that's kind of what's on my mind starting the race.
Yeah.
Let's go from there. I mean, I love changeable conditions. The struggle is always choosing the tire for the conditions. You don't know what's going to happen.
So just because it's wet doesn't necessarily mean we need the rain tire. Because you can have the dry line, but you need to make sure that the line can change for sure in the rain, especially if it's wet and you're on slips. And then if you go with a rain tire and it's just drizzling like Ron was talking about, with the tire wear, those tires are designed to run wet.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you for your time on this morning.
Absolutely.
I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Of course, everybody watching on the podcast, we all wish you the best of luck. Guys, if you like online, I've been Brayan Highscore, Tyler Stone, co-drivers at number 23, Nissan Z GT4. And thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really good.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you got them right before they're just getting in their groove and everything else, man. So
Just in the nick of time, man. Again, how they were doing a seat. Again, some of the many things that make GT4 unique is that there is a driver change approximately mid-race between driver A
what
and
has to
driver
happen,
B.
right? There has to be a driver change mid-race, right?
Typically,
rules?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is part of the rules. So some each race, there's 2 races at least in when it comes to COTA here. Race 1, driver A will begin the race, and then race 2, driver B will begin the race.
So it has to
And so-
alternate between race start
Yeah,
driving. Oh.
And so when you have that transition of driver A and driver B, and then later on driver B back to driver A in the second race, it's a variable. It makes things, you really have to rehearse that movement, seatbelt position, a number of different things. So that was actually one of the things that they were doing in between having finished the interview that we had with them and actually getting to pit lane and getting suited and into their car for the start of the race. So it really was again very, very fortunate to sit with them about that. I'm sure they were just completely in the zone, getting ready for that for the beginning of that race. That Sunday morning, there was the threat of rain. Again, and what you'll see more as you guys watch the full interview is that they'll talk more about some of the differences that if there had been rain, and then just many more things, much less how they got started and how they were able to get into their seat with TechSport Racing. So a lot of really, really good content, man.
Well, that's awesome, man. Now, I guess one of the things that we want to talk about is, we've been obviously talking about the outcomes of the races, and we're going to give you some race results here in a little bit. But before we get into that, I mean, this is essentially Nissan's entry year into this racing season, if you will. I guess, what would you call it? Like a building year?
It
Yeah.
It is. It is very much a building year. It's taking and honestly,
And the new Z car plus Nissan's involvement in GT4. So there's a lot of
yeah,
first offs for this team.
th- there were some really good comments, and this will be part of the interview that we had with the NISMO engineers. Which one of the questions I asked them was, when it comes to GT4 America, the America Series, you got to remember the GT4 car was essentially built uh, by the NISMO team or with their specifications. Uh, and tested in Japan, the Japanese tracks, and
Oh,
then
really?
this is
Okay.
their time. This same car on American tracks, and what they're discovering is that there are differences between American tracks and Japanese tracks, but also the American drivers driving style versus Japanese driving style, and a lot of these variables. Some of these things you didn't really think about until you're actually applying the car in these races. So yeah, again, very much a building year. They're learning a lot, and uh, it's definitely a lot of the things that they're learning will be applied to future the future years. I mean, again, still having a very successful year, I would say, still, but it's yet to be even more so, more
Yeah.
successful.
When I hear building year, that's always kind of good for me, because what that does is kind of lay down the intent of being involved for many years to come, especially with like Nissan and Nismo. So again, so yeah, I think it's going to be great, man, as we kind of move forward from there. So
I think you're right. That was actually one of the questions I asked the NISMO engineers. And for you guys if you guys are wanting the answer, we're going to be dropping that NISMO engineer interview again in the next coming days here. You're going to want to check it out. Um, in fact, what we're trying to do, Miles, this is essentially a Nissan nerd promotion for you guys. For those of you that haven't checked out our YouTube channel, now is the time to subscribe and follow us, because what we've been able to do, Miles, during the GT4 weekend was to get a bunch of swag. I'm talking not only Nissan promotional t-shirts, posters, programs. We've got the driver hero cards signed by the drivers. We've got TechSport Racing t-shirts and hats that are also signed by the drivers. We, again, so gracious, these guys, the
that's
team
awesome.
and the drivers. We are going to actually run a promotion. We have 6 packages, giveaway kits, you might say, bundles, that we are actually going to give to you guys who subscribe to our YouTube channel between now and the next 2 weeks. So again, for us on the podcast side, we know and we see who subscribes to our YouTube channel. And what we're going to do in 2 weeks is that we're going to randomly pick 6 winners, and we're going to contact you guys and send you a bundle of this signed merchandise, the signed merch, just a complete uh, package that we want to give you
So
guys.
again, if you're listening, this is the drive to subscribe. So
Hey,
again, not survive, drive to subscribe. So again, if you are a subscribed follower of the Nissan Nerd Podcast, we will know, and we'll put you in for a raffle for these prizes. So again, if we do, we'll send you a contact, and we will reach out to you and let you know you are the winner, and we will send you some unlimited, limited
edition.
edition swag
Yeah.
that we have. So we'll put that together and we will get that out to you. Again, if you're here in the comments, let us know how you feel about that. We can be bribed, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, no, this has got it's got to be completely random. Just to let you guys know, it will be random, and we'll definitely pick winners. But again, drive to subscribe. Make sure that you're signing on with us, and I also continue to follow the GT4 series. We'll probably ask that question. I don't know, maybe, but either way, you should be following the series. So
What I just did right now is that in our comments section, guys, again, for those of you that are watching us, you are already on the YouTube channel watching this. So it's very, very easy. The button should be right there. And then for those who are listening to us through the audio version, again, go to YouTube, just type in Nissan Nerd Podcast. You'll find us, and just press subscribe, and you are entered to win. Again, random selection, 6 winners in 2 weeks. In the next episode, we should be able to announce those winners. And if you haven't checked your email or received it, definitely reach out to us if you hear your name as being one of the winners for that as well. Again, we will have a full length interview with the NISMO engineers happening here in the next couple of days. We will publish that and promote it heavily. It really is full of so much good information, Miles, that we really owe it to you guys. As from fans of Nissan to another, for those that are with us, definitely enjoy it. It's definitely worth it. Yeah.
go ahead.
Mhm. Oh, well, that was sort of the experience that we had. Again, we've got a lot of people to shout out to, which we have, and we will again in a few minutes. But we can't forget, what were the race results? That's something we
That's
haven't
what I
talked
was going to
about.
ask you. I was like, how did we do? So
Let's go ahead and get into it, guys. So for race 1, final positions. I'll tell you what here. For race 1, again, I took so many notes during the weekend that I was getting them set up for you guys. Let's go with let's go with the final positions here. Race 1, which happened on the Saturday, it's a 60-minute race. Happened at 5 p.m. here again at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. It says here. Let's see here. Final positions: the number 22 car, which is driven by Colin Harrison and Eric Powell, they finished P24. This is the raw position. This isn't, like you mentioned, Miles. You mentioned earlier that there are so many cars on track at the same time during this race, and you're right. There's well over 40 cars competing at the same time. So when I say P24, it's raw position, and what I mean by that is that inside the GT4 race, there are actually 4 classes of cars competing at the same time. So again, it might be P24 as a raw position, but
what's that in their class?
What's that?
I said, but I guess in their class, it's a different position.
It is it is higher. I'll be honest with you, man. The number escapes me right now, but it is definitely a higher class.
Well, I think I have it here. So race 1, it looked like we're talking about number 22.
The number 22 car.
It looked like it finished 20th position, 8th in class, from what I can tell.
Again, that might be right. I'm sorry, man. I didn't have the
that's fine.
here, but
Well, I have the race results. I can, and I can scan through it. So race 1, car number 22, car finished 20th in position, 8th in class, and car number 23 for race 1, that would be 20 car. Number 23 had a mechanical issue.
Yes,
from what I can tell, drivetrain. Does that sound about right?
It was a drivetrain issue that has since been corrected, but yes, he was able to limp his car off of the track. There was no need for a safety car because of it.
Nice.
But yes.
And that was
yes.
Saturday. And now for Sunday, which is race 2, if you want, I can continue on with the results.
You go ahead. I'll get into details if you go ahead and you lay it out.
So not a problem. So number 22, that car ended up having a mechanical issue, fuel, but it looked like it finished out. Was it a DNF on the 22?
It was. They were not able to finish the race completely. Again, they were able to get off the track safely, I believe. There was no need for a safety car because of it. But yes, it was due to a mechanical issue related to fuel that caused that. Yeah.
So look like car number 23. That car actually finished 37th in the field and then 13th place in the class. overall for day 2 for number 23.
Yes, that sounds just about right. And how we mentioned earlier in the interview, there was a threat of rain at the beginning of the race. However, the race itself was dry. There was no need to change tires. That was averted. That really could have been a curveball in the results of the race, having to change tires, but was not the case. Um, uh, let's see here. The race 2 did have 2 safety cars throughout the race, but again, overall, the best lap that we had here from Colin Harrison and Eric Powell was 2:17.8 in the second race. 2:17.8 was their best lap, and then for Brian Highcotter and Tyler Stone, their best lap in that car was 2 minutes 18 seconds, 18.2 seconds. So overall, I think their numbers, if you look at them here between race 1 and race 2, were they were fairly equal still, despite the changing conditions of the track.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. Anybody you want to kind of thank, or any of the race teams in particular? Anything you want to talk about for the experience, or was
Oh,
there anything else kind of going on? Like I know they were putting together other events while that race was going on. You want to kind of talk about that stuff?
yeah, for sure. So again, when it comes to shout outs, again, I've said it, I can't say it enough. Uh,
Tech
Kevin and
Sport.
Deborah at TechSport Racing for sure. Greg Daniels with Nissan Motorsports North America. We did have Mago-san and Ko-san. They were the engineers with Nismo that gave us the time for interview. Very, very thankful for them. Other shout outs go out to, of
So there
course, the
was
ZCC. Go
so
ahead.
there's NISMO engineers from Japan, and then Nissan Motorsports engineers.
Engineers, yes.
Okay.
You have an American and Japanese contingent,
Nice.
both
Okay. So
both
you
on
have two
site.
sets, two sets of engineers. Jeez.
2 sets of engineers, powertrain engineers, suspension engineers, working together. In total, again, these names were just really the ones that I had the most contact with.
Okay.
However, there was a handful more. It wasn't just them. I mean,
Okay.
every person was on deck.
Anybody we're missing in the TechSport family, we do apologize. We'll get you when we see you
Yes,
next time. And obviously, we got interviews that are coming up here soon, so we'll make sure that we try to grab those names and give everybody their dues eventually.
y-
So
the
yeah.
dues. Other shout outs I wanted to give, of course, is to the Z Car Club Association, the local branch, which is the capital Z Z Car Club here in Austin. They were essentially the hosts of that car corral that we've mentioned a few times. Dennis Whittakin and a few others were some of the lead points on for that, supporting that event. And then these pictures that we've been sharing here as part of that slideshow earlier in this podcast, photo credits go out to Brayan Caicedo, which I believe is part of the TechSport Racing team, but also Haley Myers and Myers Motorsports. A lot of the content and videos that you saw here were because of their involvement. So definitely props to them. Thank you very much for not only for the pictures, but allowing us to share them here as part of the podcast.
Yeah. And
Um,
also our own Ion Dasgupta, who
yes,
actually who was taking my position. He had the mustache and everything the entire week, but a
he had the
big
glasses, and you gave him his hat. He
I
gave.
gave him his hat. A big shout out to Onion for the great coverage as always.
How could
Who's
I
also
forget?
a big Nissan nerd. Who I'm sure he was right there with you. He was
He
sending me
was.
updates the whole time. So yeah,
Yes, yes,
kudos.
you're absolutely right. Ion was such. Me and him on Saturday were a team. Really, we really were. Again, we got access. I forgot to mention this. Not only did we have access to the paddock, the trailer rig of TechSport Racing, but they allowed us to essentially be at uh, the outskirts of the actual pit lane to observe and to record and to just really get a feedback. You seeing these cars stop right in front of you for the driver change,
That's awesome.
and seeing mechanics, work on the thing. It was really was such a great experience, man.
That's great.
Uh,
So
yeah,
again, a shout out to all those guys. Haley wanted to chime in here. Massive shout outs again to Dennis for rallying the local Z's and helping hosts along with the rest of the local Z club. Yeah, I mean, great job for coordinating that. It's such a an ordeal to do, and they handle it very gracefully. So again, another great shout out to those guys for all their organization and getting that done.
One
Go ahead.
one last thing, Miles, before we move on. The next race is happening at the Virginia International Raceway, otherwise known as VIR, Alton, Virginia, June 16th through the 18th. So that is not this weekend, but the following weekend. We've got a pair of races that we all should be watching. If you go through GT4 America, or specifically to the SRO network, you can gather not only live coverage of these races and other races happening from online, but also live track data is being released for you to get your hands on. Such an awesome feature that they have happening again next weekend. And of course, Miles, us ourselves here, we will continue to provide you guys with updates about the TechSport Racing team and with the NISMO teams and our race results.
Nice. Well, great coverage, man. Thanks for being there, and thanks everybody for again for all the coverage and just making it a big Nissan family event, which is what everybody was hoping for, and that's what we got. So thanks again for all the coverage. I felt like I was there, so thank you.
Good. Good.
Awesome.
I'm glad, man. That was the whole point, man. We really tried our hardest, man. With the manpower we had, we definitely did our best. So
Great result. So
yeah.
that's everything that I think we're going to be covering for motorsports tonight. We're getting to our official long show 2 hour mark. Anything else that you want to kind of cover for the night before we start chiming out, Mike?
Again, if I can't say it again once more, guys, find us on social media and through your favorite podcast network and add Nismo Nerd podcast to your queue. We are available on every major podcast network. And again, every majority of our episodes, ever since we started doing the video version, for those that have been with us for the long time, you remember that we didn't start with video. We started with just audio.
We started just the audio because nobody wanted to see this at
No,
first.
they still don't. They still
This
don't.
mustache
But, I mean,
was just like I was combing out 3 hairs on it. It took a lot to get this and just to make this professional. No, but thanks again for everybody for the continued support. I mean, we're coming up on what past 2 years at this point.
3 years.
So
We're past 3 years.
We're past 3 years. See, it all just kind of blurs together. So
Yeah.
it just feels like yesterday, like when we started all this. So yeah, thank you. Sorry for the continued. Well, it's been 10 years. It's just we've been working together on shows and Nissan stuff for
over close to 15.
15
09.
years. You and
Yeah.
me. I've been
Yep.
in this for 22 years for just Nissan love and promotion and just carrying the flag. You probably a few years prior to that too as well. So yeah, it's just we've been in it for a long time. So yeah, it blends together. So again, a shout out to everybody. Continue to like, share, subscribe. Again, a drive to subscribe. And again, contact us at info@nissannerd.com. If you have anything interesting or a story that we need to know about, you let us know. So that's everything that I got. I don't think I have anything else. I think it's time to go.
I don't think so, man. I think it's time. Again, for those of you with us, look out. We will be dropping the long form interviews with drivers and NISMO engineers in the coming days. You're not going to want to miss it. Yeah, Miles.
That's it. That's all I got. It's done. It's finished. I still got stuff in the cup.
Do you?
So I got a little bit. I got a little an outsy compi. Yeah, sure. So again, lastly, thank you to everybody for being on with us here tonight. Like I always say, until we see you next time, get in the garage. I like you better when you're in the garage. Make something cool. So
I agree. Guys, if you're with us, if you got something, no matter what it is, say cheers with us. Kanpai, guys. Oh, yeah.
Goodbye. Man,
I should go ahead and that was a good one, man.
You feel good about that?
I feel pretty good about it, man. I think we did.
I like that shirt. I like that. Show me your shirt.
So yeah, man.
Ah, you lucky
Z
bastard.
GT4. I actually have one for you as well. Surprise. I thought about you, buddy. I've got one for you, and I've got a
Oh,
few of the other promo shirts that were,
you're the best.
swag. Hey, what a
No
friend's for, man.
way.
No, no way.
No way. What?
What?
No way. That guy's got the best. So
Yeah.
anyway.
By the
Um
way, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
No, we're talking about this weekend. I know it's Thursday night now. This is probably one of your first weekends back where you're actually going to be in town. We were talking about the Z car, man, whether we're going to get some time to turn a wrench on it and maybe get some body work done or
Hold
engine
up.
work.
We're still live, and this is what he's trying to do to me right now. This is what it is. You people, and we're going to sign you off in a second, but this is what he does to me. He tries to publicly shame me or
No.
publicly try to influence me. So I'm working on his damn car all the time. That's all he's trying to do because he knows he wants me to paint his engine bay. And he's like, if I bring it up on a public platform, he will not back out and he'll have to
Not true.
paint my
Not
engine
true.
bay. You
It's
dirty
all
SOB.
car related, man.
That's all it is.
Nah,
No,
nah,
no,
nah.
but
Oh,
I'm in for trying to help you. We'll talk about it. But yeah, everybody can go home. Go, leave, bye.
all right.
Let's work
Ugh.
out a dollar figure.
All right, guys.
How much beer and pizza my hours are gonna equate to.
Hey,
So
whatever I get my hands on, man, that sounds great. Beer and pizza, let's go for it, man. Yeah, yeah.
all right.
All right, man. Guys, again, thanks again, guys. We'll see you.